All right, we'll call to order the meeting for the Austin City Planning Commission, Tuesday, July 11th. First order of business is to approve the minutes from the last meeting on June 13th. Everyone should have got a copy in their packet. Does anyone have any additions or corrections to those minutes? Nobody?
No.
Okay, I'll need a motion and a second to approve the minutes as written.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Swenson and a second from Commissioner Salas Ramirez to approve the minutes from the Tuesday, June 13th meeting as written. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries. The minutes are approved. First up, we have an open public hearing to consider petition from One Stop Food Mart in Southwest Austin for a variance to the city code setback rules to accommodate an addition to the business. Holly?
Yeah, thank you. Before I get started, I just want to let the people here know that the meeting is recorded and will be available on YouTube in the next day or two. And also that the typical process is that I will present the information from the application to the Planning Commission. And then since it's a public hearing, once the Planning Commission has had a discussion, they will open it up to the public. And then we would just have you come to the podium or lectern to state your address and then name and make a statement. The first matter, as you noted, is for a variance brought by, I might need some help with, is it Radhi Sham? Okay. Corporation doing business as One Stop. The location is 2114 7th Street, or their address is 2114 7th Avenue Northeast. The property is located on the corner of 12th Street and, let me pull this up here. Is it 8th?
Yep.
8th Avenue? Okay. I have it right here on our, nothing happening, but go back. All right. The property is currently zoned as B2 Community Business District. It's currently used as a convenience store, gas station, otherwise retail, commercial. The property to the north is residential and ag conservation. Basically consists of the fairgrounds. The property to the south is commercial, also B2 district. And the properties to the east and the west are R1 single-family residential districts. The petitioner wishes to add a 60 by 44.5-foot addition onto the existing store. The proposed addition will expand the building to the north, where it would be set back 5.4 feet from the west property line, which abuts the R1 residential district. The petitioner is requesting a variance from City Code 11.023, which requires a 20-foot setback in rear and side yards that abut a residential district. The property in question is about 3.4 acres. With this proposed addition, the total lot coverage with the structures would be approximately 40%. In a B2 district, 80% is the maximum. The structures being reviewed are 3,500 square foot in the existing store. The proposed addition is 2,670 square feet. The Planning Commission and City Council will decide if the request meets statutory requirements for granting a variance. First is that the variance is in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the zoning ordinance. 2, that the variance is consistent with the comprehensive plan. 3, that the proposal puts the property to use in a reasonable manner. 4, that there are unique circumstances to the property not created by the landowner, and that the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality in which the property is situated. And this is a recommendation to the council. And then we had some additional items come in after I sent out the original packet. We had a change to the civil plans, which showed this drive being closed on the north end that comes out on 8th Avenue. And then that was presented to our city engineer, and our city engineer made some recommendations on this drawing that shows, again, like removing the driveway as was proposed by the petitioner, but then also adding, which has never existed in this area, but adding a sidewalk and constructing a driveway along 12th Street Southwest. And I'll just open it up to the Planning Commission for any questions. I did get one one comment from the neighbors to the west who had some concerns, and they're here tonight. Not sure what's going on with my presentation right now.
So as far as the newest information, the recommendations from the Director of Public Works is that they are strictly recommendations? Is there anything
It could be,
binding
so
there, or?
recommendations could be included as a condition of granting the variance, potentially. When a project requires more permissions than what you would need for like a normal building code review or something like that, or just like a permitted use, it kind of opens it up to maybe some additional reviews and looking again at, you know, the entrance and exit, the traffic flow, the parking, the, you know, maybe their hours of business and things like that. Lighting, just any questions that might come up or things that might impact the things that are listed in the backup, which I'm gonna probably have to pull up again.
So the recommendations from the Director of Public Works would be at the expense of the owner?
Yes.
Okay.
And Holly, once you get situated there, can you specify what the variance is specifically for? Is it for the setbacks, and where are those located here?
Yeah, the only, so the project would be allowed. The only issue is that there is a 20-foot setback required where the property abuts this neighboring residential area. They could still move forward with the project if they, you know, without getting a variance. So that's something to weigh, whether you think if, you know, the design that they have now is better or worse than if they, you know, if they did add an addition that was 20 feet setback.
So along
Be a
the,
smaller, you know, it would be a smaller addition if they matched the fronts. It would just be 20 feet smaller.
basically a modification to their planning.
Yeah, it would be just a modification to what they have proposed.
In the residential property that's adjacent, There's a white, looks like a vehicle, maybe a camper. Is that a driveway there?
It is a driveway, yes.
So the plan as proposed would impact the sightlines to that driveway, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I believe it would be 10 feet setback from the property line. So it wouldn't go all the way to the property line.
Okay.
But yes, I mean, whatever the length of that, I think it was 60 feet. Would, yeah, 60 feet of their view or sight line across towards 12th Street would be changed.
I guess, Holly, has there been any input on what the use of the building will be?
It'll be commercial use, which is allowed. I understand it's supposed to be a liquor store. Would be an addition. It could be used for any kind of commercial purpose, however.
Do you have any more context to offer on how we ended up in this unique arrangement where we have this mix of B2 commercial right up against R1 residential?
I would guess that it was existing there for some time, but I don't know for sure. I didn't do any research on the history of the property, but I would imagine that the way that it's set on the property obviously doesn't meet our current zoning requirements, so it would have pre-existed probably before the 1970s, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
probably mid-60s for sure, I know.
Yeah.
I used to go to that, so I know it's been there a long time.
And then there are a few interesting anomalies kind of along 12th Street as you go closer to Oakland, but it makes kind of more sense because Oakland becomes more commercial and has more dry or car-oriented businesses. But as you go south and then east and west, it's more residential.
Does it have adequate parking?
It's compliant. It'll be compliant with our city parking requirements.
Which drawing is gonna be the final parking layout? I'm confused about. There's more than one
I think
layout
it's
shown,
this one here.
based on
We
the,
can confirm if this is the one that,
Yes, that's the one we sent in, and I think the city engineer said that would be okay as long as we did the,
the additional work along 12th Street.
yep.
Okay. Actually, why don't you just come up to the mic and now they can ask some questions.
Yep. So, as
please,
far as
please state your name and your address for the record.
Brett Lunning, 75326 147th Street, Glenville, Minnesota, 56036.
Thank you.
Can you answer a question about the parking? How many spaces?
Yeah, it's the one that was on that plan that she just had up. That's what we proposed, and he said that should be okay or adequate enough for parking.
The one up there?
Yep, that one right there. Yep,
And that's the one that complies with what the Director of Public Works wants changed with the two driveways added on 12th Street?
No, well, he has his own drawing here. Let me get he has his drawing here showing the recommended changes or additions, which would be to remove this driveway and then add this doesn't show the parking, how they have it laid out, really, but he's added some additional items for pedestrians and for traffic flow. His recommendation along this 12th Street.
That's 5 parking stalls?
Actually, here, let me go back to the other drawing. So there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh, because.
And then we do count the
More
area
closing the
under the
driveway.
canopy as well.
Close this, right?
Okay.
Yes.
And then that's where we would get those two.
So they have, from an ordinance perspective, 14 spaces. Even if you said this isn't realistic and went down to 12, that would still be enough. They're required to have 10 spaces.
Is that a gas station?
Well, I figured it as the gas station has one analysis for parking. And then the addition, we don't have a specific requirement for liquor stores. So I used a commercial for that to figure out the parking requirement. And then we have a kind of a discount for mixed use projects. So they get to deduct a couple of spots for mixed use. And that comes out to 10. Do you have any other questions for the contractor? Or?
I could just, if I could make a couple remarks about against the property line that you were discussing. So, can you go back to that one before that? Yeah. So right now, there is a existing fence along that back property line, and it's about, I would say, 20 feet from the sidewalk. So that fence extends past the building and ends about 20 feet from the sidewalk. So, and I remeasured it, and the building would be about 14 feet from the sidewalk. So you'd have to add another, 6 feet of fence. As far as you're talking about being able to visually see when somebody backs up there.
Yep.
So it's not 10 feet, it's like 14 feet the building is. And so, and also the owners were wanting to follow the existing building so that it would, it would look nicer if it matched up with the back of the other building. Mm-hmm. If you move it back 20 feet, then that leaves all that dead space behind the building.
So you're saying, I just want to be clear, that there will be about 14 feet of distance between the sidewalk and the proposed edge of,
The building, correct.
with fencing along the back edge.
Yeah, and there's already existing fencing there about 20 feet from the sidewalk. And then also, the owners are going to do more lighting on the north side, and then also do new lighting and do that plan the way the city engineer wants it. So that'll put a lot more green space. And then on the north side of that building, there was also gonna be landscaping there to, improve that and also make that look nice.
So this is the city engineer, the director of public works is drawing,
Yep, correct.
showing the changes that he's recommending.
Yep,
So removing the driveway on the north, constructing the 2 new driveways on the east,
yes,
and then relocating the power pole. So the petitioner's okay with all of those changes if we include those as conditions,
correct,
whatever we recommend to the council?
correct.
Okay.
Because right now, it's just one complete driveway going all the way across the front of there. So anybody can turn in wherever they want to.
And what's the plan for the proposed lighting that you speak of?
So right now, there's no lighting on the north side where there's parking. So there's gonna be lighting put on there, and then.
When you
once
say the north side, do you mean this area?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so not over
Not over
in
there.
the empty space
No.
here between the sidewalk? Okay.
And then, once the building is built, then there'll be all new lighting going on the front of the building and new lighting, new LED lighting going underneath the canopy, so it's really gonna make the parking lot, you know, nice and bright.
Okay, commissioners, any other questions for the petitioner? You can ask them again later, after we open it up. Nothing else right now?
No, that's right now.
Okay, thank you. This is an open public hearing, so any of the people that got notice, you know, so this is your opportunity to speak to the commissioners as well.
Hello, my name is Don Nystel. I live at 1303 8th Avenue Southwest. I live next to the One Stop Mini Mart. My wife Kim and I have lived and worked in Austin our entire lives, and have lived next door to the Mini Mart for over 20 years. We're deeply opposed to the variance and the building of a large liquor store next to our home. We feel this will adversely affect our property value and quality of life. To have a building the entire length of our property line would be like staring at a brick wall. Other concerns that we have would be the increased traffic. The intersection of 12th Street and 8th Avenue is already a congested intersection, can be difficult to cross, and already has had numerous accidents which would likely increase with a liquor store added to the property. The one access they talked about already is uncontrolled, no curb, and is also a traffic concern. Putting such a large building on a small lot would make the parking insufficient and necessitate street parking in a residential neighborhood, creating more traffic and foot traffic to the area. The current area between One Stop gas station and our garage has been vandalized, and people go between the buildings to urinate and smoke. We found abandoned bikes and lots of garbage between our properties. The extending of the seclusion area between a new large liquor store and a fence would ultimately extend and exacerbate an already problematic area. With the addition of a liquor store comes a need for many coolers, refrigerant units, and air conditioning. These all bring additional noise pollution. They talked in the presentation about additional light. There would also be additional light pollution. Let's see. The current building has refrigeration in the backyard away from our home. If this building variance is approved, the refrigeration noise will be right by our living room and our bedroom. And the light pollution would also be, our bedroom's right on that east side also. The sheer size of the addition would dramatically change from a neighborhood feel to a liquor store environment that would negatively impact the enjoyment of our neighborhood, excuse me, and property. We've recently been saving to put windows and siding on our home. If they're allowed to go ahead with the building variance, it would not be financially beneficial to make any more improvements to our home, and other homeowners in our neighborhood would likely feel the same. We have concerns about the environmental ramifications of such a large building on a small lot, concerns regarding the runoff locations, lack of green spaces. I do understand that this area is zoned for residential business, but in a residential area, if a neighbor wants a variance to build on their property, they'd often talk to the neighboring property owner, and if that neighbor was not okay with the variance, the building simply wouldn't happen. The only communication we received was a letter from the city. The liquor store does not belong in a residential area. Children and families in the past went to the mini mart for snacks and staples. The addition of a liquor store would dramatically change the neighborhood feeling of the property. For many years, we've enjoyed our neighbors and our neighborhood. It was a great place to raise a family. I'm simply asking that the variance not be granted to place a liquor store 5 feet from the entire length of our property line. Thank you. Anything else for me?
You got any questions? Thank you.
Do you own the fence that's there now? Do you own that?
That's our fence.
Okay, all right.
And it's 1 foot off of the property line already.
Okay.
And we do not have a variance to go any farther.
Anybody else?
Bob Gleason, 1305 8th Avenue Southwest. I was not going to speak today, but I will say that I support Don's statement. I've lived in that neighborhood for 30 years, and it's always been a quiet neighborhood, and with lots of kids going to that store and back. And I echo that I'm concerned about the intersection. It's being an accident waiting to happen. I've witnessed many of them there. And I also oppose this and show support for Don. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, it's a public hearing.
Do I need to state my name again?
No.
Okay. So once I heard their concerns, I just hope I can address some of the issues they have at least. Though there would be no refrigeration on the east property line, there would be no noise. All the refrigeration would be in the front corner on the northeast corner of it. So there would be no noise coming from that, to his back property whatsoever. As far as accidents, and you're right, the place is kind of run down right now. And so that's why we want to put this addition on and also improve the property and make it look a lot nicer. So that's why we're taking that driveway completely out. And then that's why we're putting in Pacific driveways going in right now, so that you don't have to, so there aren't as many accidents caused by people just coming in wherever they want to. As far as like A Street going to 12th Street, I guess that's more of, whether stoplights are needed in that section or not. As far as he was stating that people would like go behind the building or something like that, we can always include a gate there so that nobody can go behind there unless they have a key to open up the gate and go back there. As far as, his concerns are. And also, I didn't contact you directly because I didn't know if it was the right thing to do or not. You know what I mean? I would have came to you personally and talked to you about it if I would have known you'd be willing to talk about it. So I apologize for that. As far as the store itself, I don't think it's gonna bring any kind of like bad people there. It's just so that if residents want to get a beer and come there instead of driving all the way to Apollo Liquor or someplace like that that's a lot farther away, they can come there and do it. And I guess that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, let's hear it, commissioners. What do you guys think? What's everybody thinking?
I understand Don Kimberly's issues with this at this time. If it was going to be just a total grocery store, Would it be something different, in my mind?
I agree with Commissioner Lundberg on that as well.
Yeah, I think technically it's a B2 district, so he's allowed to have a liquor store there. But the thing I'm stuck on is the considerations that we have, the 5 items that are in the recommendation. The 5th one, the variance if granted will not alter the essential character of the locality. Are we looking at that right, Mr. Byam? That's one of the factors to consider, yes. Okay.
I think number 1 is also relevant to this case, being in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the ordinance.
Keep in mind that, but I would, I just want you to keep in mind that you're comparing, an addition with a 20-foot setback versus an addition that would follow the property line, because they are allowed to do an addition. This isn't gonna stop them from building. This is just gonna change the look of the building, potentially. Just wanted to clarify that.
Then that,
We're not granting a variance for the use of the property, we're granting a variance for the location of the addition.
Correct, right.
And if we decline it, or recommend to council to decline it, and they do, they can still add on, they just can't get within 20 feet of that side property line.
Right, correct.
Okay.
And then I'm not sure, I'm not sure if that would change I suppose it could still be done with the same traffic flow and design recommendations. But I don't know that we would necessarily be required to, they would necessarily be required to do those changes without having that as a condition of their variance.
so in the only way to reinforce the design recommendations laid out by the city engineer would be to grant this variance with those conditions.
It gives us more leverage to do that.
If they do an addition without the variance, they would still have to go through the building permit process. They would still have to comply with parking stalls. The parking stalls that are going to be required are going to be across driveways. And so I'm not going to speak for the engineer department, but I would think that they would say parking stalls across a driveway is not something that they would approve from a building permit standard. So I think they're going to run into some of the same problems in that. It just won't be something that you're requiring, because you would require it as part of a variance. If you say no to the variance, it would go to the building permit.
Yeah, I would say from my experience, the northern piece would stay as recommended, but the section along 12th Street, that's
Sidewalks and driveways,
that's uncertain.
okay. I also understand that if they were to make modifications to the plan, they could be in compliance without needing a variance. Is that correct?
Correct.
So point number 4, if there aren't any unique circumstances to the property not created by the landowner, then modify the plan and we won't need to grant a variance.
Anybody else got any thoughts? Anybody ready to make a motion?
I move that we reject the proposal as stated to grant a variance for this project.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Who's that? Melissa?
Second.
Okay. So we have a motion from Commissioner Stewart and a second from Commissioner Swenson to recommend to council to, see if I get this right, Aaron, to deny the request.
Deny this request for variance.
Okay, any further discussion? Nothing?
To deny the request?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the motion is to deny the request, to recommend to council to deny the request. Any further discussion? Everybody clear? All right, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor of the motion to deny, please respond with aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. The motion carries unanimously. All right, next up, we have another open public hearing to consider a petition from Pulver Towing to rezone from B2 commercial to I1 light industrial. Holly?
Just gonna take me a second here. All right.
Those who were here for the last one, you don't have to stay. No one take offense if you go.
Am I not gonna make this big because of these plans that are in the packet? Okay. Maybe I'll just grab the paper copy. Oh, I thought there was a way to zoom that in, but I'm not sure.
You can just click on each document in the share folder.
That's true. Yeah. Let's see. I'll just get started. All right, the petitioner in this matter is Schaefer Northwest LLC, doing business as Pulver Towing. Their address is 6077 Rome Circle Northwest, Rochester. The location of the property is at 1210 14th Street Northeast. The current land use and zoning classification is, it was vacant, commercial, B2, and Pulver has moved to that location. The surrounding land uses is to the south and the west is B2 commercial, and to the north and the east, or north is I1 light industrial, and east is I2 heavy industrial. I'll pull up, let's see here, map here. Let's see, we're over right here. So this where I'm hovering right now is the property in question. The petitioner has made this rezoning request to amend the future land use and plan and change the current use from B2 commercial to an I1 light industrial district to allow vehicle storage on the property in relation to the towing business that he owns. There are some differences between the B2 and I1 and B2, the storage of vehicles outside, things that are not for sale or rental are generally not allowed. The area would be just for storage of of vehicles that have been towed. I have the considerations that you may things that you may consider are the consistency of the proposed zoning with the goals, policies, and future land use map of the comprehensive plan. This is a requested change in this instance. The compatibility of the site with the uses permitted in the proposed zoning district. In this area, there's mixed zoning districts. I have adjacent, this must not have got changed. There are mixed zoning districts in this area, but it's B2, it's commercial and light industrial and heavy industrial. The compatibility of all of the potential uses allowed in the proposed zoning district with the surrounding uses and zoning in terms of land suitability, impacts on the environment, density and nature of use, traffic impacts, aesthetics, infrastructure, and potential influence on property values. The capacity of existing infrastructure and services sufficient to accommodate the uses permitted in the requested district without compromising the health, safety, and welfare of the residents. Whether the uses permitted in the proposed zoning district will cause detrimental environmental impacts, including but not limited to excessive stormwater runoff, water pollution, air pollution, noise pollution, excessive nighttime lighting, or other environmental harm. That the boundaries of the requested zoning district are sufficient to meet the dimensional regulations for the proposed zoning district. In this instance, there's not any external change, I don't believe, to the building. The ability of the applicant to satisfy any requirements applicable to the specific zone or use imposed pursuant to zoning and land use regulation. And no variances or anything of that sort have been requested. I understand they do intend to make some improvements, but that would be internal to the building. And then the only other issue would be the outside parking. Fencing would be required in an I-1 district. So recommendations, again, there should be a circulation plan within the site to ensure that vehicles are not backing in and impacting traffic on 14th Street or 11th Drive Northeast. If or when 12th Avenue Northeast is constructed in the future, driveway access will likely be relocated to 12th Avenue to avoid intersection conflicts. And then again, fencing would be required around the outdoor vehicle storage area. And then this is just a recommendation to council as well.
This is the old Shamel Electric building, correct? Yep, and then,
Yeah.
yeah, and then I guess to the east is the storage facility, and then of course Quick Trip. And then the bike path is on the other side, correct?
Yep.
That's what I thought.
So Holly, I sent you a message yesterday asking for some clarification because I'm confused on the use table, why they need to rezone at all from B2. Because B2 allows parking and commercial parking garages and lots.
Well, it's not really a commercial parking lot. That would be like a parking garage or a lot, or like if we rented a downtown lot, or I guess in my interpretation, that's not included.
Right.
This is more like a,
So the other use of the
so a
table.
normal car parking in a lot is a little different than maybe a towed car. Sometimes they have cars that are not operable, obviously. But most of the time they have cars that are not operable. So, and there's no way of knowing. I mean, I think they have a limit on the amount of time that they'll sit in an area, but it's anyway, it's different. Yeah, it's
Okay, so in the
for that part.
table, for the next one was truck freight or transfer terminal was I-1. But we're not saying it's that?
No,
Okay.
no. It's just something associated with their towing business where they need outdoor storage for vehicles.
So I wasn't sure by your response. So are you saying that the property to the south and the property to the east are both non-conforming now then?
You mean the one to the west?
They're
Or
both
the one to the
B2.
east would B, yeah,
Yeah, they're both B2 and they both clearly have vehicle
has
storage.
storage, which to the south has storage.
The Quick Trip, they even have
They
semis stored there.
But they're not stored there.
Yeah,
Parked there.
that whole east row is private vehicles that stay there overnight. They're usually day drivers.
But they're not owned by Quick Trip. Quick Trip's not keeping their vehicles there, correct? These are just privately owned.
I don't know if any of them are Quick Trips or not, but
Anyway, I think it's a different situation. Those vehicles have somebody there with them. It's not like a broken down, abandoned vehicle sort of thing. I mean, it could be, I guess. I mean,
well,
but,
they're stored there when the owners aren't there.
oh, you mean like a
Several drivers
ride
that
kind of
park
thing?
they
Oh,
park their
okay.
rigs there and then they go home and then they come in the morning and leave
Yeah,
their
I
vehicle
guess I
there and
still
drive.
wouldn't really consider that as necessarily an industrial use.
Okay.
It seems kind of like maybe just
So they're gonna have a fenced-in area where they park the vehicles that they're told to tow until the people come and pick them up.
yeah, and I mean, from a safety
that doesn't come
perspective, I
under
think that
B2?
makes sense as well. Like it's somebody's property. It's entirely possible that people could be out there cutting catalytic converters off potentially or something like that. Of course, that could happen in any parking lot or in your driveway.
But is there a reason it has to go from a B2 to an industrial?
Yeah, I guess we considered it as being like a notch above a normal parking lot. Like a thing that could be maybe a bit of a nuisance or aesthetic issue that should be screened, which is required in an I1 district, but not in a B2 district.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a hard thing to figure out where it fits, and so I understand all these questions. We also have ordinances that prohibit outdoor storage of non-operable vehicles or, things of that nature. And we enforce that fairly consistently when we can identify residences maybe that have inoperable vehicles sitting outdoors. And so, with a towing company, pretty much everything that they're going to interact with is either inoperable or it's been taken and it needs to be impounded for some period of time until their fees are paid and things of that nature. So it's a different thing than a retail establishment where customers come and go in their own vehicles, and we require parking spaces to allow those customers to come and go in a safe manner. It is interesting if there are people who are quote-unquote storing their semi-trucks at the Quick Trip. That's really not probably what was envisioned when we required them to have parking stalls for trucks. But the parking lot is there because we require parking stalls for that type of vehicle and that type of a location. So when we looked at the ordinance as far as comprehensively really how it treats the storage of stuff outside, whether that's car parts, whether that's materials, whether that's other things, there's a fairly consistent theme that we want that to be indoor in most locations until we get to industrial. And industrial, the reality is there's lots of businesses that keep a lot of things outside, and that's why we put the industrial kind of away from things, because we know that there are a lot of businesses that are probably going to store unattractive things or store piles of stuff, and it's impossible to really force them to build buildings in which they can keep all of that stuff. So that's why industrial allows outside storage and most of the other areas don't. So in evaluating this, the conclusion was this is really a light industrial use. On the plus side, the land of the north is all zoned for light industrial. So really you're just moving an existing line, one lot to the south. You're putting it closer to the Quick Trip. The only question, I suppose, is long-term, does it make sense to reserve that land for future commercial? Or should we take advantage of an industrial user who wants to put it to industrial use, this use, or any other industrial use? You're not sticking something in a neighborhood that's completely different than anything else around it. You're just, again, sort of moving that line a little bit. And for what it's worth, Port Authority owns that land to the north of this site. And I asked the executive director today whether the Port Authority had an opinion. And he indicated that, no, they don't. They're fine with this. Not really an official act, but the guy who runs it, that's what he said, so.
And they would have gotten notice technically, I mean.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, who did you say owned it?
The Port Authority, Austin Port Authority.
Okay.
So that's another city-affiliated organization that manages land for economic development purposes. and they acquired that L-shaped parcel just to the north of this piece a few years ago for the potential industrial development as the industrial park kind of fills up out there, to have that available. So, you know, look to the east, you've got some residential over there, but that's quite a distance. So really your immediate neighbors that you'd be concerned about is Quick Trip, that indoor storage just to the east of this parcel. And then, what is that, Comfort Care?
Yes. Or Good Samaritan.
Good
I think
Samaritan,
it's
right, Good
Yeah,
Samaritan,
Good
whatever that's called now. So that's the neighborhood that you're really talking about. Across the street is heavy industrial already, so even more intense industrial uses are permitted across the street. All of which, of course, is right next to the interstate, so that makes it attractive to all sorts of different businesses that would like, you know, transportation access.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
You said it's going to be a fenced-in area where you store the vehicles. Will that be will you kind of shade the vehicles, or will it just be a chain link fence?
Absolutely, yeah, we don't need to create any issues with anybody. I don't know, Holly, if you could zoom in just on our lot. So the east end is the right end there of the building.
Yep.
And you can kind of see a separation of the buildings there, about 2/3 of the way from the left to the right. So the plan right now, the fence will go north there along the property line, meet the storage line, come south and come back, and then go back north to the building. So that east rectangle will be all fenced in. And I have talked to the storage people about using their fence. I haven't asked them if I can specifically screen their fence, but yes, the plan is for our fence to be absolutely screened, yes.
Thank you.
And then one of the recommendations to create that circulation plan for traffic flow. Any issues with that?
Well, I don't have a written plan. As it is right now, the driveway, it comes in, it curves to the right as you come in. We are actually in the process of, we're going to make a driveway that splits there and goes straight north and makes a circle around the building. Even if that doesn't get done on the south side of the building, there is plenty of room. I've already done it with my wrecker with the tractor trailer behind me. I can make the loop. There's no reason I would ever back in or back out.
Sorry, we do record, so if, probably we should be talking at the microphone.
Sorry.
Sometimes it happens a lot where we just ask a question and it kind of.
My apologies.
So yeah, if you want to just state your name.
My name is Mark Fearock. I live at 1402 16th Avenue Southwest. I am the manager of the property there. This is Mark Schaefer. He's my boss. He's the owner of the property. So I don't know if we were in the middle of a question or not. I don't remember where we were at. So
The other concern that the city engineer had was there's a plan eventually to extend 12th Avenue, right? Am I calling it the right thing, Holly? Which is the non-existent road that would run east to west along the north side of this parcel. And because of the shape of the main road where your driveway comes, and there's a curve there, he wanted to make it sure that everyone understood when that road is extended or whatever, it would be very beneficial to connect your driveway with that side road rather than right out onto the highway.
and doing that won't be a problem. We have, on the west end, on the left side of the building, there's plenty of room. We would have to remove some trees to be able to do that, to create a driveway there.
His
Wouldn't be a
concern-
problem. I don't honestly think our driveway, because of the proximity to Quick Trip's driveway,
Right.
that our traffic really would ever be a concern, but
Right.
it wouldn't be an issue to
Yeah,
do.
I think his primary concern is there's so many driveways kind of coming to a head right there that it's not, from an engineering standpoint, optimal. But right now, there's not a street for you to use.
No.
But when the
No,
street
it's
is
just a
there,
sidewalk there now,
he would hope that you would be agreeable to reorienting your driveway access on
Yeah,
that
we
side.
can absolutely make it work.
He also said he's concerned about backing into that driveway.
I don't know where that came from, but
But
like I
based
said,
on what you just said, you're gonna have a loop, so you'll never be
there's-
backing in anyway.
there's plenty of yard right now. I don't know where that ever would be a concern. Why we
I
would ever
should
do
note that we did get some concerns from one of the neighboring property owners, and it might have come from that, maybe some comments from the neighboring property owner.
Okay, any other questions, commissioners, for the petitioner? Okay, it is an open public hearing. Is there anybody else here that wanted to speak to this?
My name's Logan Otomo. I live at 28113 570th Avenue in Austin. I am the owner up north at 1505 14th Street Northeast. I own Otomo's Towing. I know it's kind of irrelevant. I mean, we're competitors and everything like that, but this whole reason why I'm bringing it up is there's a whole zoning area for what we want to do. And I was looking at this building when I first was looking at, purchasing a property. And that's a great property, it is, but it wasn't zoned for what we wanted to do, and property that I bought, can you scroll up there, please, Holly? Nope, that's one more up. Yep, so it's that one right there. I have the fenced-in lot right there, and it's away from basically that curve down to the south there. That curve right before QuickTrip, there's a lot of traffic there. I didn't know this road was that busy when I moved there, and to try to get even out of my place at 3 o'clock is pretty tough. I know it's a blind corner right there when you turn. I mean, people fly through here, and they think it's a racetrack, and you got Todd Park up there. You get people with 350Zs and Chrysler 300s, they zoom down this road. And that was my concern of basically just with pulling in a big truck. Sometimes it takes a little bit because not everything has operating wheels all the time. It's got flat tires, and let's say we get a semi that's wrecked. You can't always just drag it in there. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you got to take your time. Some things fall off. It may take time to get re-back, but you get a car come flying down that, it could get catastrophic pretty quick. And then the pedestrian crosswalk right there too, with a lot of trucks already coming from QuickTrip, the semis, just people trying to get gas, they do get confused. I have seen it. They're trying to turn into their lot, but then they realize that they screwed up. They back up. And I think that's what they were trying to get at, is the customers are backing up into QuickTrip because they realize they made the wrong turn, and that could happen. They could get smugged. So I guess that was my concern, is just there's a lot of traffic in this corner. It wouldn't be anything to have them, up towards the industrial park where everything's zoned for, because there would be no problem. There's tons of room back there. So I guess that was my concern.
Thank you.
I'd like to speak, please.
Yeah. It's an open public hearing, you can speak.
My name is Mark Schaefer. My address is in Orinoco, 1090 Cedar Ridge Lane, Orinoco. Probably don't know where that is. It's a little town. As far as traffic concerns, what Mr. Otomo said, last year we only had 3 wrecked semis the whole year. So going in there with a tractor trailer, maybe a half a dozen times a year. QuickTrip, if you stand there during the day, there's over 1,000 tractor trailers going in and out of onto that road. So I don't see a concern in that. As far as your zoning, I own a lot of properties in different cities: Marshall, Worthington, Austin, Rochester. We have the city contract of Rochester for 4 years. There's not been one complaint on our service. We're commercial in Rochester. And Mark introduced me to this property, and we looked at it, and I said, no, it's just a piece of junk. It's trees growing out of it. We're gonna improve the building. We're gonna we're gonna add services to our service. We're gonna employ more people. I know the taxes are only $3,200 a year. I know they're gonna go up. We don't care. We wanna improve the building, make it nice, and provide a service for Austin. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you. Okay, commissioners, any other questions or discussion?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that our decision isn't based on traffic patterns or anything. It's just zoning. So we focus on the matter at hand. It is whether we rezone from B2 to I1. Doesn't really affect how the property is being used.
So do I need to, if I could go ahead?
Sure. Sure.
So just to address that, regardless of the traffic patterns, regardless of the zoning, the storage doesn't really affect what we're going to be bringing. If we bring in a tractor trailer that we can't store there, it may still come to our yard and then leave that day. Then it wouldn't be stored in the rezoned yard, but it's still probably gonna come to our yard. So the traffic's not gonna change whether you rezone or not. We're still gonna use it. It'll just be a matter of whether we do the fenced-in yard and store the vehicles there. So that's really not gonna change. And like Mark said, the amount of traffic for tractor trailers, it's gonna be minimal anyway, especially compared to the driveway right next door, so.
Yeah,
No, that answer your question.
No, it wasn't a question.
I
I
would
was,
just,
we were
I
saying the
guess
same
you could
things.
say they could temporarily have something there. Just this issue is storage.
Can I speak on my own?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, let's say we do have three racks. Do you have enough space to put them there?
I'm sorry, what?
Do we have enough space to put them in that area? Is there gonna be enough area to put let's say he does get three tractor trailers. Is there enough area in that space to put them?
I think the question is there enough space to operate your towing business?
We only get 3 tractor trailers, let's say a year. That's a what if, it's in the air. You never know. I mean, we can get wrecked tractors, who knows? And then plus also accidents with cars. Those are gonna take up space. That's another reason why I didn't look at this area for purchasing it because there's not a lot of room to grow into. I mean, you can't really grow too much. You can't have too many people in there. Where are they gonna park? Where's their parking gonna be? And if you got a fenced in area over there, there's not gonna be too much area. I mean, it's gonna take up a lot of room. I mean, I got like a 15,000 square foot fenced in lot and there's not much I can put in there. I mean, I need a big area for these tractor trailers. I mean, they're 110 feet long and they're not just straight and narrow. Sometimes their trailers are all flopped out and they take up a lot of room. And that area is not very big for it. And that was one reason why we passed up on that, because there's just not any room to grow. I know Mark talked about, bringing more people and putting another service. You could do that. I mean, it's right up the road. There's an industrial park there's a couple bigger areas for sale. I know of one right now that's up there.
Okay, so I want to be clear. Your position is then that it shouldn't be here. It should be out in the industrial park.
Industrial park, yep. I mean, look at Watson. I mean, they would love the front,
Okay.
Aspect of it and everything, but they gotta meet requirements and everything like that. And they've got a lot of stuff they gotta put in there too. There's just not a lot of room in this location.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, anything else, commissioners? Need a motion and a second this is a recommendation to council, right, to rezone?
Correct, yes.
Do we also have to move and do the change to the
Future land use map?
plan? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, it should be motion to rezone from B2 to I1 and change the future land use map from, if I had that in here.
So 2 separate motions, Holly? That's what I'm getting at.
No, it can be one motion.
Okay.
I don't think there's a need to do either one of them if you're not doing both of them. So,
Right.
Yeah, true.
put them together.
Yeah, it can just be to update the future land use map.
But either way, it's a recommendation, right?
Correct.
Council, okay. All right, anybody ready to make a motion?
I would move that we recommend to council that we change the zoning on this from B2 to light industrial. And at the same time, also have to update the future land use map.
That's everything, right? We're good. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, so I have a motion from Commissioner Lindberg and a second from Commissioner Norman to recommend to council to approve the request to rezone from B2 to I1 and update the future land use map accordingly. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, I don't see anything else on the agenda. Holly, we got anything else?
No, I do not.
All right, I need a motion and a second to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Swanson and a second from Commissioner Norman to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.